Hello and welcome to Business Today. We continue our coverage of the Union Budget, and joining me now, Romal Shetty, the CEO of Deloitte South Asia. Thank you very much, Romal, for joining in to dissect the budget. I'm going to start by asking you your big takeaway from the budget. Clearly, the consumption booster that has been provided through the new tax regime becoming the big headline. What's your own assessment at this stage, Romal?
I think so. My view is there are four things actually. Of course, consumption, and I think that is everybody's speaking about with the 1 lakh crore kind of tax rebate which has come into everybody's pockets. But really, I think there is a tremendous from the next $1 trillion, but also in terms of 2047. I mean, this is one. Been looking at many budgets for many years, but in terms of just the number of reforms or number of things that have been suggested in the budget, I think it's quite significant compared to anything that I remember of, at least.
Romal, one of the points, and you yourself have done work, Deloitte has done work in this space, and this is deregulation. And it's not just something that's found mentioned in the budget today or the economic survey yesterday. It was mentioned last July as well. But this seems to be the global big thing right now. You see what is happening in the United States, and Europe is suffering from over-regulation, according to Europeans themselves. How significant is this move? And whenever that report comes, what could it mean for India's economy?
Yeah, I think it is extraordinarily significant. I think the FM mentioned about light touch regulation. I think there is a view that anywhere where there is over-regulation, too many things, businesses take a backseat. Everybody wants to have certainty. Nobody wants to be hounded by anybody from the regulatory agencies. So I actually think that everything, which is, I think there is a lot spoken about the direct tax code in terms of, reducing half the content, but even decriminalization of economic offenses. I think that is also very, very important. So this is, my view is it's going to be a big propeller, both, as I said, both domestic as well as foreign investors to sort of then start coming into India, start investing in more places. And we've also spoken about the fact that they want to do increased tier 2, tier 3 cities as well, try to bring in infrastructure in the, sort of the urban infrastructure. I think that'll all sort of propel this. So I think very, very significant and a very good move.
Romal, what's your sense about FDI flows into India this year and beyond? Because we've seen a different strategy really play out, including on portfolio flows as well. But broadly speaking, on FDI, given the government's continued stress on capital expenditure, will we see significant uptick in FDI in India, and what sectors could drive that?
Yeah. So I think one is, the extension for the sovereign funds. Our own assessment as Deloitte is that over a 5-year period, because they've extended it 5-year period, we think $35 billion, between 30 to $35 billion will come into India. So I think that is quite significant. FDI also, both, my view is also, one is in terms of infrastructure. Of course, there's a little bit more things need to be done on infra, but also in terms of deep tech and startups, for example. I think that is also a place where we see more investments coming in, and healthcare. I think those are some places where we see much more FDI coming in. FDI, of course, has been, I think it has been not what we wanted. And I think that has been pointed out in the economic survey as well. But some of these measures will definitely improve FDI, because there is money lying in funds, there is money lying in countries which obviously have reached some saturation, and they are looking at newer markets. And therefore, we have to stand out, and the simplification of this, all these other measures that we've taken, that will also promote FDI.
Romal, the advent of AI is now known, but DeepSeek has been a moment of reckoning for many economies. Without discussing and debating the cost at which it was done, the government seems to be now keen on a renewed attempt at getting our AI engine up and ready. What's your own assessment? The survey has spoken about it. There have been some decisions beyond it. There's also a fund that has been allocated for purchase of GPUs. Is this enough according to you?
So here, Siddharth, my view is that nothing is enough on AI because this is truly disruptive. What is going to happen is truly disruptive. But I think the government has to manage many things. But here, I think the private sector needs to come in because this innovation is not going to come in from the government. The innovation has to come in from the private sector, of course, facilitated by the government, giving them in terms of whether it's chips, whether it's anything else. And if we can get a lot more data centers, Siddharth, for example, with high compute GPU and many both conglomerates, others who want to invest into data centers, I think then you will create the base compute infrastructure in the country, which I think is very important, and not necessarily only the government has to procure chips. And then, of course, having the skilling and everything else from the private sector, because it is, if we have done, the space mission and the Mars mission in $70-80 million, can't see a reason why India, from an innovation perspective, cannot actually get there even in the AI thing. And AI is very important. That is very, very important from our long-term as well as short-term focus.
It's interesting you mentioned Mars, because the finance secretary who was here with us just before you came on the show mentioned the Mangalyaan movement as well. I want to pick up one final point with you today, Romal, and this is your own understanding of what is the potential of the government's intent for monetization of some of the hard infrastructure that has been created. The disinvestment secretary said that, it's largely a statement of intent. Perhaps we'll get to know more. But from your standpoint, is there potential for the public sector to monetize some of the assets that have been created in a sustainable manner?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, Siddharth. I think I've always spoken about the fact that the government should be in the business of governance, not really in the business of running businesses. And this part of monetization, I think, is extremely important. There are some world-class PSUs which are doing great things, but I do think that there should be a renewed focus. It has been told by the government as well. And I think the economic survey also talks about it. So we should really put on a mission zeal to monetize some of these, because I think it will be run much more efficiently. The productivity would be much better. So look forward to seeing in terms of what steps the government actually takes in. But it's an important thing for the country.
There is also an effort in the budget fine print which speaks about a 3-year plan for public-private partnerships to get the private sector involved. The broader question I have, in your conversations with CEOs in India and elsewhere, do you see the prospects of a pickup in private sector investment? Because when we talk to people in the government, this is one of the sort of disappointing factors that is sometimes alluded to, that private corporate sector investment hasn't risen as much as the government would have hoped, Romal.
Yeah, so it's a lot of factors, both global, right, in terms of those factors as well as India factors. But I feel in some sense this is going to unleash a little bit of the entrepreneurial spirit, because of, I really believe the consumption story in terms of what was done, in terms of for the investments and the simplification. I do think that this is a good opportunity, I think. And of course, the devil is in the detail and the implementation. So that's why I think if people can see things moving on the ground, ease of business really being much more easier, you will see a change in that. So I don't think so it's that people don't want to invest, but yes, people are always careful. People are thinking twice. And of course, globally, the demand is, nobody wants today only to build for India. I think when you're a pretty large conglomerate, you want to build for India and you want to build for outside India as well. So I think there is a bit of hesitancy there. But I do think with some of these and implementation on the ground, we will see a pickup on private consumption, definitely, private investment.
One very final and quick question, and this is your reading of the global environment, particularly from the perspective of trade and the likely impact when it comes to foreign investors' interest towards India. We have discussed China +1 for quite some time now, but your own reading with regard to whether India continues to remain attractive destination for foreign capital, Romal.
India continues, Siddharth. I mean, across the globe, across our various clients, India definitely is always spoken in the boardrooms. I don't think so. There is a doubt on that. But there has been a view that India is sometimes very difficult to do business as well. That continues, right? But like I said, I think with what has been proposed, and there aren't too many markets that offer both for a domestic as well as the ability to export, right? I mean, today if you look at some of our top companies, their market cap, 50% or 40% of their market cap is coming from India. So those are, of course, those are the success stories that will propel. So India has always spoken in boardrooms. It's not that there is we need to figure out what is India all about.
All right, Romal Shetty, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for taking out time on this busy budget day to tell our viewers about what you think of the budget. Hope to connect with you again. Until then, goodbye. With that, it's a wrap. But viewers, we continue our conversations with budget makers. Another batch coming up on the other side. I am Siddharth Zarabi and we are starting the Secretaries Roundtable after the presentation of the Union Budget. And with me now, Dr. V. Ananthan